On the east side of Columbus, in a wooded area, sits a stately red brick mansion. It is known as the Jeffrey Mansion, and it was built in 1905 by a businessman named Robert Jeffrey. The beautiful home is a great site for weddings and photo sessions, but it also hides some terrible secrets. The story goes that Jeffrey committed suicide by hanging himself inside the lovely mansion, and some people claim that his ghost has been seen moving throughout its halls. I was there on a photo shoot for a high school senior, and I was wrapping up when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. A shadowy shape moved down a hallway, but it was gone before I could turn around and fully look. I had talked to the staff about strange occurrences in the mansion, and at first they were hesitant about saying anything, but eventually they shared some of the happenings.
My former boss said that a copier would turn itself on and make blank copies.
One of the staff said,
The feeling of a ghostly presence. Knickknacks moved out of place. Someone or something tapping my shoulder. All of this gave me the creeps.
One of the staff said,
I knew I was the only one in the mansion. Then I heard someone whistling on the other side of the door, and when I looked, nobody was there.
I took these stories with a large block of salt and went about my photo gig. It all went well, and I had my gear packed and was about to leave when I heard a thump from the other room. I thought I was the only person in the building, and the person I'd photographed was long gone. I also knew that the staff had left too, because they told me that once I left, the door would lock behind me. I thought about the stories I'd been told, and they gave me some pause. I held my ground for a moment, waiting for more sounds. Then I heard another thud, and then footsteps. I moved so I could see into the next room, and I saw a pile of rope on the floor. At first, I didn't make the connection. I kept moving, and then I saw a shadowy shape standing in the next room. It stood stock still, just looking my way. My blood ran cold. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. Then it all clicked into place. The shape began to move my way, and my fear levels went off the charts. The problem was, the shape was between me and how I came in. A ghastly sound filled the building, which sent a cold stab into my heart. Fight or flight kicked in, and I knew there was no way I could win this fight, so I picked flight. I grabbed my camera bag and ran to the side door, which I wasn't supposed to use, but in this case, I didn't care about protocol. I just knew I had to get out of there and do it quickly. The ghostly moans filled my ears. The shape was getting closer, and the room got colder. I ran to the side door and pushed it open. I ran outside, and the door swung shut behind me, hopefully trapping whatever was inside. I didn't stop running till I got to my car. I threw my gear in the back and peeled out of the parking lot. More photo shoots inside again. When I was in college, I got a job working at a daycare center that was housed in the historic Jeffrey Mansion. It was a really beautiful building, and I enjoyed going there every day to work with the children. My shift was in the late afternoon, and my job was to help the children get off for the day, so that meant sometimes I had to stay late and clean up. I didn't mind working after hours because there was less hassle and less people to deal with. But it also meant sometimes I was left there alone. I had talked to some of the children, and they told me strange stories about things they saw in the dark corners of the rooms in the mansion. One said they saw a woman in white who seemed very sad, and she had a very scratchy voice.
The lady, she just watches us and she's kind of scary and kind of sad. I try to stay away from her.
I just took it as kids inventing stories, and I didn't put much credence in their stories. One day I was working there late after everybody had gone, and I heard what I could describe as a crying coming from deeper inside the house. I didn't know who it could be because I was the only person there. I put my work down and went to see where the sound was coming from. I moved through the house, and the crying came and went. I wasn't sure how to take the sounds when I thought about all the stories I'd heard from the children. I was about to give up when I heard a terrible scream which echoed throughout the mansion. This sound locked me into place. I was unable to move. The sound seemed to echo everywhere. Then I heard footsteps moving inside the house. Again, I thought I was the only person in the building, so it felt like a cold hand was running up my spine. I moved back to where I was working and began to gather my stuff so I could leave. I turned around and then I saw her, a woman in white hovering a few feet above the ground. A cold hand clutched my heart and I thought I was going to pass out. I must have stood there for what felt like an eternity but was only probably a few seconds. The woman began to move towards me and there was nothing I could do. I was frozen in place. I was just about ready to run when she faded out of existence with a terrible scream. This broke me from my trance and I grabbed my stuff and ran out the door. I got to my car and looked back at the house. Its dark windows were like cold eyes looking back at me. I could swear I heard a woman crying. I got into my car and quickly drove away. Later I would hear a story about a young woman who was killed inside the mansion when it was under construction. Nobody knows if she was connected to the house or it was just a random crime. But I believe that her spirit still moves through the halls of Jeffrey Mansion. Luckily, my school wrapped up and I was able to get out of that job because I didn't want to go back there and ever hear those terrible sounds or see that ghostly shape again. I live on Columbus's east side near the neighborhood of Bexley. Along Alum Creek is a wooded area, part of Bexley's park systems, and attached to that is the Jeffrey Mansion. It's a beautiful building, constructed in the early 1900s, but it has a sad past. I like to hike in the park area and sometimes I walk around the grounds of the mansion. Its grounds are well kept up. I love looking at the beautiful red brick structure. One time when I was walking the grounds, I felt a cold breeze hit me on what was a very warm spring day. I glanced around and there weren't any clouds or storms coming, so this was a true mystery to me as to the source of the sudden frigid air. I just knew in some ways that I needed to get out of the area. I looked up at the mansion and I could swear I saw a shape in one of the windows looking down at me, and this made me feel even colder inside. Then I looked over toward one of the stone structures in the yard of the mansion and I could swear I saw a dark shape inside moving slowly. It was like it was just looking right at me or through me. I felt as if the breath was being taken away from me and I heard a ghostly sound inside my head. I glanced around to see if anybody else was on the grounds, but I was there all alone. When I looked back at the stone structure, the shape was gone. This allowed me to break free and start moving away from the mansion and getting to what I felt was a safer place. I glanced back at the mansion and this time I saw a ghostly shape of a woman just standing in the yard. She hovered there above the ground and I could feel sadness emanating from her figure. I felt my knees go a little weak and I just held my ground for a moment. I looked back at her, and then she just dissolved away into the background. Frightened and a little sad, I trudged away from the mansion and back to my own neighborhood. I would learn that what I may have seen was the ghost of Alice Kilbourne Jeffrey, who died inside the home in 1922. This is after the death of her husband, who is rumored to have hung himself inside the mansion. The more I learned about this beautiful building, the more sadness I feel surrounds it. Now, on my hikes, I tend to move around the mansion and its grounds because I can't take the feelings that emanate from it.